So in this first video looking at averages, we'll be looking at how to calculate the mean, the median, the mode and the range from a list of numbers. Now in the description below there'll be a copy of a set of notes and a copy of a worksheet as well as an Excel worksheet for you to practice everything you've learnt in this video. Now we use averages as a way of representing and summarising a long list of data. Now in maths there are three main types of averages that we can use, and it kind of depends on, and depending on which average you use is based on what data you're actually working with. Now the first average we're going to look at is the mean, and that's can only be calculated using numerical data only, so when you've got a list of numbers. The second average is the median, which again can only be calculated when you've got a list of numbers. And the mode, which can actually be calculated if you've got numerical or worded data. So for example, if you've got a list of numbers or you've got worded data, i.e. like what's people's favourite colour, then you can actually work out the mode. Now if data is numerical, so in other words you've got a list of numbers, you can also calculate the range. Now the most important thing not to get confused by is the range is not an average. The range is a calculation that measures spread of data. So let's have a look at how we calculate these four things. Now to calculate the mean, all you need to do is follow two simple steps, and I strongly recommend that you make a note of these steps and this method when you're working through some example questions, which we will do later on in the video. So with the mean, the first thing you want to do here is add up all the numbers in your list and then divide the answer by the number of numbers. So if you've got a list of 5 numbers, you'll be dividing by 5. If you've got a list of 4 numbers, you're dividing by 4. If you've got a list of 10 numbers, you divide it by 10. If you had 70 numbers, you divide by 70. Now the median, now again, this follows two simple steps. Is the first thing you need to do, and this is probably the most important one, as well as obviously finding the answer, is to order the numbers from smallest to largest. Now it doesn't necessarily need to be smallest to largest, but it's a lot easier for you to order a set of numbers if you are doing it in that particular order. And then the second thing you then need to do once the data is in order is you want to select the number in the middle. Now there may be a instance when you've got two numbers in the middle, and if you do have two numbers in the middle, then what you need to do is find the number that's in between those two numbers, or an alternative to that is if you have two numbers in the middle, add them together and divide it by 2, and you'll automatically find the number that is in the middle between those two. And then the mode, which is our last average, and it's probably the most easiest one because you can actually do this just simply by looking. It's the number or item that appears the most, or the one, in other words, it's the one that's the most popular or one that appears most frequent. Now the key thing with regards to noting is that if no number or item appears to be more popular than any of the others, then it's really important you state that there is no mode, never write 0. And the reason for not writing 0 is because 0 might be a number that's in your original list, or as 0 is a number, you don't want to give the impression that 0 is the most unpopular number when all you're really trying to say is that there is no number that appears the most. Now there's one thing that's probably missing off that mode, which I'm just going to add in now, is that you can actually have more than one mode. So it is possible to have more than one mode. Now I wouldn't go beyond maybe 2 modes, personally speaking. It depends on how a question's written, but generally speaking, if you've got 5 numbers and they're all unique, you wouldn't state that they're all the mode. You would just say that there is no mode. So I would generally stop that if there's more than 2 modes or 2 numbers or 2 items that appear the most, then I would say there is no mode. But again, that can sometimes be different depending on the question. And the last thing we work out is the range. Now to work out the range, all you've got to do is it's the largest number take away the smallest number. And the key thing to remember here is that if your data is in, let's say, a jumbled up order, make sure you are selecting the smallest number, not the first number you see on the list, and make sure you're highlighting the largest number, and again, not the number that appears last. So it's always the largest number take away the smallest. Now the best way to understand the averages is by actually working through an example, which is exactly what we're going to do now. So just setting up these questions. So what we've got is we've got 5 questions and a different ranging of a amount of numbers, and what we're going to do now is we're going to work out what the mean, the median, the mode and the ranges for each of these questions. Now I'm going to go for a different colour for each particular question. So for question A, I'm going to do it in red. So again, what we're doing here, I'm just going to go through some tips on what we need to do. So to work out the mean, what we need to do here is add the numbers together. So I'm going to do 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 8 plus 5, and I'm going to work that out either by hand or by mentally or by using a calculator, and it's entirely up to you. But just be aware that if this question appears on a non-calculator paper, then obviously you need to not use a calculator. But obviously if it's a calculator paper, then you can use a calculator. But it's good mental practice, and sometimes you might find it's easier just to do it in your head than it is to grab a calculator. But anyway, so the answer here we get is 30. Now, what we now need to do is we need to divide this number by how many numbers we've got, which we've got 5. So the mean is going to be 30 divided by 5, and that gives me an answer of 6. So 6 is the mean of this set of data. The next thing we're then going to work out is the median. So what I need to do now is I need to order the numbers in order. So what I always think is good practice is, as you can see, I've got 5 numbers. So I'm going to set up 5 dashes. And then what I'm now going to do is write down the numbers in order. So here we've got 5, 5, 5, 7, and 8. So now my numbers are in order. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and figure out which number is in the middle of those numbers. So, and one way of doing that is by cancelling one from the left, one to the right, and you keep alternating until you end up with 1 or 2 numbers in the middle. So here my median is going to be 5. And then working out the mode. Now the mode, again, you can just kind of do by sight. So which number appears the most in my list? Here it's going to be 5. And then working out the range, well, that's going to be the biggest number, which in this case is 8. Take away the smallest number, which is 5. And that leaves me with a final answer of 3. And there is my final answer for that one. So let's have a look at question B. So again, let's just get rid of all of this. Now the main difference with this one is now we've got a bigger set of numbers, and let's see if it draws up any other things to discuss. So the first thing, again, we're going to work out the mean. So again, what I need to do is add those numbers up. So 5 plus 14 plus 6 plus 10 plus 7 plus 6 plus 8. And if I add up all of those numbers, which I'm now going to do now. Now, if you're kind of wanting to practice working out the averages and the range, then I strongly recommend you pause the video or pause before I'm about to discuss or work through the question, and then have a go at the question. You can check your answers by replaying the video. So here, if I add up the numbers, I get 56. So to work out the mean, it's going to be 56 divided by how many numbers I've got, which in this case is going to be 7. And 56 divided by 7 gives me 8. And there is my final answer. Now, in terms of showing you working out, do you have to write down all the numbers to show the adding? Probably not, no. As long as you are showing that you've added all the numbers up and then you're dividing by how many numbers you've got, I would say what I'm highlighting in red, as you can see on your screen, is probably the bare minimum of what I would actually write down in your working out. And so we haven't finished this question because now I've got to work out the rest. So we've got the median. So again, I've got 7 numbers. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm just going to read off the list and just go for the smallest to largest. So my smallest number is 5, and then I've got 2 6s, I've got a 7, an 8, a 10, and a 14. Now the good thing about having the dashes is that it stops you from missing out a number. And that's going to have a massive effect onto your final answer. So you always want to make sure that you not make any silly mistakes. And that's why sometimes having the dash is a really good technique of doing that. And obviously, if you do miss out a number, it's quite easy for you to, let's say, sneak in a number before you start working out the middle. So again, it's all about good practice and finding ways to limit the number of mistakes that you potentially could make. So again, looking at this, I'm going to cancel off my top and the bottom. So I've got 1 from there, 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 and I can see that my middle number is 7, so the median is 7. And then moving on to the mode, so the number that appears the most is going to be 6, because I've got 2 of them, and then the range is going to be the biggest number, which again from my order list is dead easy, so it's 14, take away 5, which gives me a final answer of 9. So again, getting rid of all of that, let's have a look at the next question. Now the main difference between questions A, B and C is that with C, we've now got an even number of numbers in our data list. So let's have a look at what we do here. Now, generally speaking, it's going to be exactly the same, but the only difference is when we're working out the median. So again, working out the mean, I add the numbers up, so I've got 3 plus 9 plus 9 plus 3, which is going to give me 24. And then 24 divided by 4 gives me 6. Then working out the median. So again, I'm going to have my 4 dashes because I've got 4 numbers. I write 3, 3, 9, 9. And again, so here, when I cross off the numbers, so cross off there, and you can see here I've got 2 numbers in the middle. So I either want to find which number is between 3 and 9, or a quick and easy way of doing it is to add the numbers up and then divide it by 2. So here I've got 12 divided by 2, which is 6. So my median is 6. And then for the mode, now this one's a little bit more controversial because as you can see that I've got, the mode is 3 and 9 and I've got 2 of each. But the problem is that they don't really stand out. 3 and 9 doesn't stand out. So here, because I've got 2 3s and 2 9s and I've got no other numbers to compare it to, I would actually write that there is no mode for this particular question. Because like I said, in order for it to be a mode, the difference between the numbers, or the amount of numbers that you've got, has to be significant, and there is no significant difference here. I've got 3 3s, 2 9s, they don't really stand out. So I'm going to write here that there is no mode. And then finally for the range, again it's the biggest number, which is 9, take away 3, which leaves me with an answer of 6. And there is our final answer for those 4 aspects. So again, moving on to question D. So with question D here again, it's dealing with multiple, an even number of data. So again, let's use different color pen. So here, let's look at D. So the mean, again, if I add up all of those numbers, I'm going to get 14 plus 22 plus 21 plus 15 plus 13 plus 5 gives me an answer of 90. So I'm going to do 90 divided by, how many numbers have I got? Well, I've got 6. And I'm going to do 90 divided by 6 gives me an answer of 15. Then working out the median. So here I've got 6 numbers, so I'm going to do my 6 dashes. I'm then going to start filling in the numbers. So I've got 5, I've got 13, 14, 15, 21, and 22. So again, I'm going to go through one from the left, one from the top, one from the left, one from the top. And you can see here I've got 2 numbers in the middle again. And you will tend to find that if you have got an even set of numbers, you will generally find that you will have 2 numbers in the middle when you are working out the median. So what I need to do here is find the number that's between 14 and 15. Well, that's going to be 14.5. And there is my answer for the median. And what I would generally do is I'd write it underneath just so that you can see where all my answers are. Then for the mode, you can see here that I have actually got no mode. So I'm actually going to write no mode. And then finally for the range, that's going to be 22 minus 5, which gives me an answer of 17. And then finally moving on to question E, or the E set of numbers. Let's have a look. So now we're looking at decimal numbers. So again, to make a question a little bit more complicated, they may introduce decimals. It's entirely up to them. But again, it's done in the exact same way. To work out the mean, I'm going to add all those numbers up. So I'm going to do 2.4 plus 1.6 plus 4.4 plus 6.5 plus 4.8 plus 1.6 plus 3.8 plus 6.9, and that all adds up to 32. And I'm going to divide that by how many numbers I've got, which in this case is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and which I've got 8 numbers, and that will give me a mean of 3. Now, one way of checking to make sure you've done the answers correctly is that your mean, your mode, and your median should all be numbers within the smallest number and the largest number. So, for example, with any of these questions, any of your averages will never be more than your biggest number, or it will never be smaller than the smallest number in your list. Now, just be careful when you are adding these numbers in the on your calculator. So for example, if I go back to A and I add the numbers up, and if I just do it all in one go, so let's say I do this and then divide it by 5. Now you need to be careful, because if you've watched BidMaths or you're familiar with BidMaths, then what your calculator will do first, or may do first, is it may do division first. So the only thing that will be divided by 5 is going to be that last 5, not all of it. So if you're all going to do it all in one go, then make sure you put brackets around the numbers you're adding and then divide it by how many numbers you've got. So just be wary that when you're using a calculator, just to check that. Like I said, if you have made a mistake, that's more often where it's going to be made, either that or you've entered the wrong numbers. So anyway, back to this question. So working out the median. So again, I'm going to have my 8 dashes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is fine. Need one more. There we go. And then we're just going to just take our time and just go through. So I've got 1.6. I've got 1.6. I've got 2.4. I've got 3.8. I've got 4.4, 4.8, I've got 6.5 and 6.9. So again, I'm going to go through my list of numbers. So I've got one off there, 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 and I've got these two numbers here. So again, if you're not sure about which number's in the middle, simply add them together. I don't know why I've put 3 plus 8. We're going to go for 3.8 plus 4.4, divide that by 2, and 3.8 plus 4.4 divided by 2 gives me 4.1. And again, if you could do that in your head, brilliant, good for you. But again, it's always worth just making sure so not using any silly mistakes. And then working out the mode, it's a case of which number appears the most. So here it's going to be 1.6. And then finding out the range, it's going to be 6.9 minus 1.6, which is going to give me 5.3, and there's my final answer. Now the key thing to note with regards to question E is that your answers can be decimal. That is absolutely fine. So just be wary that if you do end up with decimal answers, don't automatically think you've gone wrong. It could even be that you've gone wrong, but there could be a big factor to say that you have done everything absolutely spot on. So let's move on to our last example, which is just more of a worded question. So here we've got a bit of a cheeky squirrel who's collected nuts on 6 different occasions. Here are the amounts of nuts they collected. So we've got 5, 3, 5, 7, 6, and 10. And this question is asking us to find the mean, the mode, the median, and the range in that different order that I've said. So but here, let's work through it. So again, first thing I'm going to do is pick a colour. So let's go for red. So working out the mean. Again, I'm just going to add the numbers up. So I'm going to do 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 6 plus 10. And again, if you are going to use a calculator and be lazy and not work it out separately, I strongly recommend you put it in brackets and then divide by how many numbers we've got. So here I've got 5 plus 3 plus 7 plus 6 plus 10, which gives me an answer of 31, which I've missed out a number because I should have 5. And then we divide that by 6, which gives us an answer of 6. And again, to make sure I've done this correctly, all you then want to do is just make sure that your answer, is it smaller than is it bigger than the smallest number, and is it smaller than the biggest number? So obviously 6 is bigger than 3 and it's smaller than 10. So there is a very, very good chance that I've actually done this absolutely spot on. So then moving on to the next one, which is the median. So again, I've got 6 numbers, so I'm going to do 6 dashes. And so now all I'm going to do is order the numbers. So I've got 3, I've got 5, I've got 5, I've got 6, 7, and 10. So again, looking at the number in the middle, well, it's going to be these two. So again, I'm going to add the numbers up, which makes 11, divided by 2, which gives me 5.5. So the median then is 5.5. Now, if you are doing this in an exam or in a test, then the median and the mode are actually worth, the mean and the median are actually worth 2 marks. You'll get 1 mark for showing evidence that you've added the numbers up correctly and divided by how many numbers you got. Obviously, that's for the mean. And for the median, you'll get a mark for listing the numbers in either ascending or smallest to largest, or descending order, which is largest to smallest. So don't order in your head. Write it down. It makes it a little bit easier and you're less likely to make a mistake. And it's easier to correct a mistake if you do actually write it down. So next thing we then got to do is work out the mode. So again, here we can see clearly that we've got 2, 5, so that's going to be our mode. And then the range is going to be the biggest number, which is 10, take away the smallest, which is 3, giving me an answer of 7. And if you have got a question where it's asking you to work out more than one average and the range, then it's a very good sort of I'll say template to make sure you emphasize your answers by either underlining them, highlighting them, using a really fancy color. But make sure you're not just making it just blend in with the rest of your working out, which is the most important thing. Now, attached in the description below is a Excel worksheet which for you can practice working out the 3 averages and the range of a set of numbers. Now, just a quick explanation of how this all works is what you've got is you've got a list of numbers for you to work out the 3 averages and the range about. Now, the blue boxes are there just for you to write the numbers in numerical order. So in other words, you're writing them from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, whichever floats your boat. So looking at question 1, I've got 5 numbers that I then need to work out the averages of. So if I just emphasize that by making that bold, which I cannot do because I can't change the questions. And so all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put the numbers in order. So I've got 1, I've got 2, I've got 3, 4, and a 5. Now in the green boxes, all you need to do is write down the values of the mean and the median and the mode and the range for these set of questions. So if I add up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, I get 6, 10, 15. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. Enter 3 and it tells me that the answer is correct. Working out the median, well, the blue box is definitely going to help me working out the median because my numbers are all in nice order, in nice sort of ascending order. So here my middle number is going to be 3. So I'm going to type in 3 and I should get that correct. Now for the mode, now you can see here that there is no mode for this. So all I need to do there is just start by writing no mode. Again, press enter and it comes out correct. Now to work out the range, that's always the biggest number, take away the smallest. So if your numbers are in order, it's the number on the right, take away the number on the left. But it's the better way to remember it is always the biggest, take away the smallest, which in this case is going to be 4. And there you go, and you've got that all correct. And then obviously all you then need to do is apply that to all the other questions and you'll be absolutely there. And obviously once you've mastered it, then it's pretty simple. And the key thing is then is just to remember the methods of working out the 3 averages and the range. Now once you've mastered the art of calculating the mean, mode and let's record this again. So once you've mastered calculating the mean, the median, the mode and the range, the next thing you probably need to be aware of is when do you use which average, which is again is a really important thing to know, and also looking at more complicated averages questions that you could get in an exam. And you can also then link averages to graphs and charts and working out the average from that set of when data is represented in the form of a diagram, which I will go through in another video.